It is your boy T with another Have You Seen That with T movie review, and today we are reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So here we are, the end of another trilogy in Marvel, and this might be one of the most disjointed, uh, incohesive, volumes of Guardians of the Galaxy that we've got so far. What I mean by that is this story is very up and down. It starts off very gloomy, it starts off very action packed, and then it gets lighthearted, then it goes to gloom, then it goes to action. It repeats this formula throughout the movie, and while that's not necessarily a terrible thing, it's not the greatest thing for the movie and not for the franchise. It's a very dark movie. This movie really centers around Rocket Raccoon, finding out who he is, finding out what he loves. And it just so happens he loves family. And just so happens Vin Diesel is in this movie as Groot as well, because we all know Vin Diesel loves his family, right? The movie really, it starts off on an extremely action-packed note, a gloomy note. Star-Lord still, mourning over the fact that Gamora is from the future and doesn't remember him, and he's trying to recapture that glory. And the team is trying to rally around them because they're family, and everybody's just kind of trying to find their place in this whole grand scheme of what they're supposed to do now that they are the Guardians of the Galaxy. And every single character in this movie gets a moment to shine. We got Drax, Mantis, Nebula. Gamora shows back up for this movie. She gets an opportunity to shine. And I think this is the first movie of the Guardians of the Galaxy series and in the Marvel series period where Pratt feels like a superhero, right? He feels like, a leader. To me, it could definitely be just the way this story is written for him. But this is the first one where I feel like, he kind of has that presence on screen to where you feel like, oh, this guy is Star-Lord. Um, but of course, the heart of this story really is Rocket Raccoon's journey. He was created by the High Evolutionary, who I'm not gonna attempt to butcher this guy's name, but he starred in a Peacemaker. I'm not even gonna attempt to say his name. But the High Evolutionary created Rocket Raccoon. He's trying to create a perfect species. He's the one who created the Sovereign, who indeed created Adam Warlock, who played by Will Poulter in this movie, was pretty phenomenal. Throughout the movie, I thought that they were going to do him disservice throughout the movie, but I thought from the beginning to the end of the movie, Will Poulter kind of came into that character. And I definitely look forward to seeing that character again in, the Secret Wars and in the Kang Dynasty Avengers movies coming moving forward. But other than that, the story really was rooted in Rocket Raccoon, how he was created, how he escaped, and the High Evolutionary and what uh, purpose he really served in all of this, who he was. And this really, led me to um, understand how great or how important it is to have a believable villain, right? And the actor who portrays High Evolutionary's movie is a great actor, right? He's in the Peacemaker and he did really well in the Peacemaker, every scene he was in. But in this movie, he just didn't feel important enough. And I don't know if that was by design, but his motives, how he was going about things just really made no sense for me, which kind of drew away from the movie. Everything he was doing just didn't logically make any sense, which is why the movie kind of fell off towards the second act. And then it redeemed itself in the third act. Of course, you have the superhero triumph at the end, with, of course, some melodrama somewhere in between there. But it ended on a really bright note. It ended on a very open note, right? The end of this movie is very open ended to where they can go next. because they are going next. You know, this isn't the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, they didn't have an Iron Man moment at the end of this movie, but they did have a very open end to the movie to where they can go next. And it's really exciting for Marvel. I think this movie kind of opens up the door for a few other things within Marvel. But the superhero fatigue definitely did set in. I would say about 15 minutes into this movie, I kind of was already over it. And then the movie pulled me back in. Like it was just some very questionable choices on, you know, what was being done on screen, what was written, and it intrigues me on, you know, James Gunn directed this movie, and it just intrigues me on how, you know, what direction he's going to take DC moving forward, because this is a very dark movie, a very emotional movie, a very you know, emotion heavy movie. Of course, it did have its action, it did have some great cameos in there, and it just was a disjointed up and down roller coaster of a ride, that in the end I enjoyed it, but they could have probably cut off about 30 minutes of this movie, and I probably would have enjoyed it more. There was a lot of just stuff that really didn't need to be in there in this movie. I think it was a little bit too long. And I understand because they wanted to close the story out. They wanted to give everybody their character arc ending, which they did. But at the same time, this movie was just a little bit too long. So I can't fully endorse this movie. Of course, people are gonna go see it because people go see Marvel movies. That's what you do. But the superhero fatigue is real. This was a good movie, not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination. But then I look back on it, and I don't think any of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies were great movies per se. But they were really solid movies, and this was a solid movie that, you know, I can't fully get behind because it went a little bit too long, but at the same time, you know, it did have a fulfilling end, which might not please all. You know, the ending I don't think is going to please everybody, but I thought it was a fitting end for the series, and you know, I'm looking forward to where they're going to go next with the Kang Dynasty and the Secret Wars, and how they fit into all of that, and where, you know, everybody is when that all begins. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, it happened. I went and saw it, and I gave a review. Definitely, you know, if you got some time this weekend, it's really a slow weekend at the movies, and this is the only thing really popping, unless you're gonna go see Sisu, which I haven't seen yet because for some reason they're not playing in El Paso yet. But when they do, I'm definitely going to go see that. But this weekend, you know, go check out Guardians of the Galaxy. I wouldn't say take the kids, but definitely nice little date movie or something, or just a fun movie outing for some friends. Because, you know, you might want to show up 30 minutes late because it's a long movie. Like, it is a long movie. But if you got the time, definitely go check out Guardians of the Galaxy.